news story on the heels of the issue around the electricity crisis in the country. We now talk about something that seems to rear its head year after year, just when it's time to go back to school. We're going to be looking at the exorbitant pricing of school uniforms, and here is where the Competitions Commission steps in. Senior analyst Betty Mkhatshwa is here to talk to us about the steps being taken by the Competitions Commission to end this nefarious practice for once and for all. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Good morning to you and your viewers. Thank you.
I seem to remember that a couple of years ago, the Competitions Commission came out very strongly, gave a firm ruling regarding the pricing of school uniforms. But it seems as if the practice is ongoing. Different schools have preferred suppliers, and they do come at quite a cost as far as the parents are concerned. There have also been allegations that the schools profit from the high costs of uniforms. Your thoughts, and what sort of investigations have you guys come up with, and what is it showing you?
Yeah, I mean, the observations you've made are very much true. Each and every year, we do get a lot of complaints from parents, and some of them from schools as well, which relate to, suppliers that are charging excessive prices for school uniform and other learning materials. The concern really with the schools mostly is that the schools would have, a list of items that the students have to wear, and when these items are unique and can only be purchased by parents from one specific supplier or a supplier that's been appointed by the school or only from the school itself, that means there's no competition for those items, and parents have no choice but to buy those items because they are unique and they are compulsory. And that does then give an incentive for the supplier or for the school that's selling the uniform to actually hike up the prices. So a lot of the complaints that we've received in the previous year reflect these concerns. In fact, we've also done a survey in 2022 where we assessed awareness and compliance with the Competition Act, as well as the National Department of Education's national guideline on school uniform. And that survey revealed as well that a lot of the schools are still using one supplier. Whilst there is some increase in compliance in terms of some schools having more than two suppliers, there were still, concerns, and a lot of schools are not aware. So yeah, the issues you are raising are exactly the issues that we are still encountering as a commission through the complaints that we receive.
So, what can the Competitions Commission do if I come to you with a complaint from the school where my kids go to and say that the prices are exorbitant? Please look into the matter. What type of action, what sort of investigation would you undertake, and what type of action would be meted out to the school or to the supplier of the uniforms?
Yeah. I mean, the Commission has done significant advocacy around these issues over the years. And the approach in some instances has been to engage with the school, try to get a change of behavior, a change of policies. And what in fact we've done recently is that we met last year with all the provincial departments of education to rope them into the actions that the Commission is undertaking in terms of advocacy. We've agreed with them that the Commission's guidelines on the procurement of school uniform needs to form part of the SGB training packs and the principals training packs, so that they know what to do when they set their policies, right? So there has been extensive advocacy work, but the Commission certainly does take opportunities to enforce the Act where there are clear contraventions of the Competition Act. In fact, we have in the past, entered into settlement agreements with certain private schools, as well as certain suppliers of school uniform, who had entered into exclusive supply agreements which contravened the Competition Act. So I should emphasize to the parents that they should not feel that, if they have a concern, maybe if they bring it to the commission, it will not be resolved. Each and every complaint that the commission gets around school uniform and any other complaints, in fact, are investigated thoroughly. We engage with the schools, we engage with the suppliers, and where there are opportunities, to refer some of the complaints to the tribunal for prosecution in order for fines to be imposed. That process will be followed through. As I've indicated, there are instances as well where the suppliers and the schools decide to settle with the commission and address the concerns that the commission has raised. So parents should, in fact, feel free to reach out to the commission with any complaints that they have around the prices of school uniform, and the policies of the schools around uniform as well, right? Where the policies have a lot of unique items which are compulsory and can only be bought from, specific suppliers or the school itself.
I'm wondering, Betty, if this is a possibility. Perhaps, some of the school governing bodies, the competition commission, and other interested parties could get together and put pressure on the different schools, private and state schools, and put a ruling in place where, the school uniforms become uniform in nature. All school children should wear the same uniform. The difference could be perhaps a little logo or a badge on the blazer or the school gym or the shirt, for example. But in terms of color and styling and fabric of the uniforms, it should be standard for all schools throughout South Africa. And then we can do away with this ongoing problem year after year after year. That's the one comment. Comment number two is we also see a lot of children dropping out of the school system simply because the parents cannot afford the school uniform. And then the kids are being teased and bullied because they're not properly attired. And over and above of that, the teachers put a lot of pressure on the children as well. They send them home and tell them you're not allowed to return back to school if you're not in your proper school uniform. And that's a grave issue. That's a very, very grave issue.
Thanks for those comments. In relation to the first one, obviously the Commission under the Competition Act does not have any powers to, speak on, the policies around what is appropriate school uniform nationally for all the students, and what policies can be put in place by the schools, right? But what we do have is the framework under the National Department of Education's national school uniform guideline, right? And the commission has also drawn quite significantly from that document in then setting out what the policy is that schools should apply, which also complies with the Competition Act. So what we advocate for in relation to the comment that you've made about just making the school uniform items more generic is the commission says to the schools, you need to consider when you set your school uniform policy and design that a lot of the items, and especially the items that have to be worn every day, must be generic. So it's important to have just a shirt, a school shirt that perhaps has a specific color, but can be purchased from any store, including the national chain retail stores as well. So it's important to, not make unique the pants, for example. Don't put in straps that are not necessary on the school uniform items, such as, ties, the socks, and the like, right? I mean, obviously, there may be instances where the school uniform items have to be unique, for example, in terms of sports. But even in relation to those, you need to make sure as a school that those items are very limited and they're available as well from a large pool of suppliers. So that's as much as the commission can do in terms of that. But I understand as well that within the Department of Education, at least from our visits with the provincial offices, that there are discussions as well around the issues that you are raising about making school uniform more generic. And in relation to your second complaint, I mean, that is comment that is correct. I mean, the commission does get a lot of complaints, and some of them are not just about the prices of school uniform, and schools appointing one supplier. Some of the complaints that we get are that a school has chased my child away because they don't have all the required school uniform. So obviously those are complaints that fall outside of the powers of the commission under the Competition Act. So I would encourage parents to raise those complaints specifically with the provincial departments of education and also through the districts. That the schools fall under. However, if we do get those complaints, we have, engaged with the provincial departments, and we can certainly filter those complaints to them, for them to address them. But you are correct. And obviously schools should not chase away students because they don't have the full school uniform items. And also, the more generic the school uniform items, that means then parents can be able to afford to buy gray pants or white shirt anyway. They're not forced to then buy the branded products that sold at exorbitant prices.
Absolutely. Let's wrap up by talking about stationery. That's also a bone of contention with a lot of parents, isn't it? Because stationery costs are also quite steep.
Yeah. So the commission's guidelines also apply in relation to, other learning materials as well. So if parents do have complaints about the prices of stationery items, they should feel free to raise those complaints with the commission. Obviously, the commission has the power to investigate, the retailers and suppliers of these stationery items to also understand whether their cost structure justifies the prices at which they're selling, the learning materials and the stationery. So those complaints can also be sent through to the commission, and just for the information of your viewers as well. So there are a number of ways that a complaint can be filed with the commission. So they can file it through filling in what we call a form CC1, which is available on the commission's website, which is www.compcom.co.za. Alternatively, a complaint can be sent through to the commission via our WhatsApp line, which is 084 743 0000.
Okay, my last comment, and I'd like your response to it. What if the school governing bodies or the schools argue that free market principles prevails? So, they can charge for their specific items what they like. That is the supply, of course, and also argues the supply and demand principle that this is the only time of the year that we can make money. The rest of the year is quiet because there's a demand for our product, which is school uniforms at the beginning of the year, and for the rest of the year, we remain idle. So that is the bulk of our business at the start of a school year. But that doesn't give them the right to charge exorbitant prices, does it? So really, they'll bring in the argument of supply and demand. What does the Competitions Commission feel about that type of an argument?
Okay. I think I'll just first state that obviously SGBs who are involved in the process of appointing suppliers of school uniform need to make sure that they hold those suppliers accountable. And in fact, now through the advocacy work we've done, they should know and be aware of the competition principles. And if SGBs don't hold the suppliers accountable, parents can certainly do that. So from a competition law perspective, right? Yes, you can charge a price in relation to the school uniform. However, the price that you charge needs to be reasonable considering your cost structure. So if the price is excessive and there's an economic assessment that we undertake to determine the excessiveness of the price to a point where it contravenes the act, then that is not allowed. So suppliers, schools are not allowed to take advantage of the fact that there is an increased demand for school uniform and other learning materials, usually beginning of the year. So if they do charge significantly high prices in comparison to their cost structure, that is something that raises competition concerns, and the Commission can pursue those cases, and in fact will pursue those cases. So parents should feel free to refer those complaints to us, as well as SGBs as well, if they feel that the suppliers that they have appointed are taking advantage of them in the period. So yes, demand and supply does dictate the price, but there are still limitations and there are still competition principles that everyone who engages in the economic activity of selling school uniform or learning materials, be it a school or an independent supplier, must adhere to. So yeah, those types of practices will not be accepted and allowed by the Commission simply because they want to make money at this time of the year. In fact, this time of the year is when the Commission is more vigilant around these issues, because that's when suppliers and schools try to take advantage of the parents. And again, when there's only one supplier, that's a situation where that supplier will take advantage because they don't have any other competitor that would be constraining them in terms of pricing. But the more suppliers you have, those suppliers have to compete, and they have to compete on price and other factors. So when parents can shop around between the different suppliers, and the suppliers are forced to compete on price, and that will lower the prices. But once you have one supplier for unique school uniform items especially, then that's where concerns are likely to arise in relation to excessive prices.
Betty Mkhatshwa, you are obviously the senior analyst at the Competitions Commission. Thank you indeed for your insights on that issue. We hope and pray that we don't have to talk with you again this time next year with the same same old, same old. We do hope and pray that this situation and this scenario gets addressed for once and for all. You have yourself a great 2024. God bless and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Same to you.
12 after 10 o'clock, and that, of course, means that I am wrapping up for the morning. Thank you indeed for your company. We sincerely hope that you have, in fact, enjoyed the discussions this morning. We do hope to see you regularly on this platform going forward. It is the beginning of the year. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of our du'as, guide and protect us, and watch over us and our loved ones. Take care. Till Monday morning from me, Julie Ali, as always, it is Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz.